Less than a week later, he climbed on his bike yet again for an organized 65-mile ride known as the Lavernia Wild West Hammerfest. In contrast to his almost biblical experience in Grand Prairie, this day's ride was hot and dry. Actually, blissfully uneventful, as Brian thought while he rode, with none of the slipping and sliding that had characterized his ride at Prairie Man. But about 200 yards from the finish line, he took a corner hard, skidded on some gravel in the road, and suddenly felt the wheels of his bike sliding out from under him, as if on ice. "This is going to hurt," he thought, almost as if in slow motion, as he felt the pavement draw near. "Pay attention to whether you hit your head." Brian was wearing his new helmet, a present Debbie had given him for his 50th birthday, which was the following weekend, and he would consider himself extraordinarily lucky that he had not waited to use it. It protected his skull by absorbing much of the impact of his fall, so much so that the outer shell cracked like an egg, just as it had been designed to. As he lay on the ground, Brian took a quick inventory. He noted the road rash, a painful form of friction burn in which some of the pavement was often left behind in the wound, on his knee, calf, hip, forearm, and elbow. The pain in one knee was so severe that he also wondered if he might have done some structural damage, and he was alert enough to realize he might well have suffered a concussion. He then noticed that his Garmin 310 XT, a small navigation and training computer strapped to his wrist, had shattered and was, in all likelihood, no longer waterproof. He didn't especially care, but the extent of the damage was yet another reminder of how hard he and his bike had hit the ground. Somehow, he was able to walk his bike across the finish line. An ambulance had been parked nearby, and several EMTs who had seen him take a spill coaxed him inside to examine him. It took the crew 45 minutes to clean his wounds, using gauze to meticulously remove the fragments of gravel embedded in his skin. They also spent a fair amount of time checking his head. Though he appeared to have avoided a concussion, it would be several more hours before they could definitively rule out such an injury. Brian's main concern, though, continued to be the sharp pain in his kneecap. After the crew led him gingerly down the back steps of the emergency vehicle, he summoned the courage to call Debbie. "I just got out of the ambulance," he told her. "Ambulance?" she asked, with understandable alarm. As he somehow drove himself home, Brian's thoughts turned to Ironman, Arizona, now just 2 months and 3 days away. "I can't believe I may have screwed this up,"